is that I have been on trips where influencers around me have been crazy about creating content. Everything is content, content, content. It's never about, let me take a minute and let me just enjoy where I am. Let me just, keep that part of my life, for myself, for example, rather than sharing every minute. Look, each to their own. Obviously, I don't judge anybody based on that. But I have seen with my own eyes people just become so obsessed with creating content, and even the pressure from the agencies or the management that represents them, that you've got to take a better image, and you've got to then send that image with whatever product that you might be doing an advertisement for example, to your agent, and they've got to then approve it, and if they don't like it, you've got to take it again and again and again. So it's crazy. A lot happens behind closed doors, which the average follower, for example, will not be aware of. I am very lucky to know some very top-end supermodels from different parts of the world. And sometimes, in a friendly circle, when I sit and I meet them, I will be just eating lunch normally, and they're staring at me, and I would say, well, why don't you eat? And they would literally say, we can't, because if we gain 1 inch extra, my agent's going to be very angry. I've got a risk of my agency dropping me. And I just thought to myself, what kind of society are we living in? On one hand, you get these massive fashion brands and designers and agencies talking about, we don't stand for this, but it's all happening secretly undercover. And I've got a number of supermodels who would vouch for that, who would say that, but of course they don't want to risk their careers by talking about it so openly and exposing their agencies. So we do need to see a lot more size diversity. At the end of the day, who is your consumer? Your consumer is an average woman like me who's size 16 in the UK, but you want to showcase these pieces on much slimmer women. Well, I'm not going to fall for that, and a lot of women are not falling for that anymore. I want to see them clothes on a body type which is similar to mine. As a woman of colour, coming from a South Asian background, it's so important for me to see representation when it comes to fashion, when it comes to media. In the UK, South Asian population is around 10%. We do not represent anywhere when it comes to media at all. Hardly. Only now you're starting to see, some brown faces here and there. And it's really, really frustrating when you see brands coming together and talking about diversity, especially when it comes to races. And by just probably putting a Caucasian model in there who's got a slight tan, they would think that they've ticked the box. So it's really, really, really important that brands don't think that they can mislead people who follow them in such a way. People are going to know if you've got a real South Asian person in there, or an Eastern personality in there, or a Middle Eastern personality, etc. So be true to what you say. Don't just say it because it's in fashion at the time, or it's the latest trend to talk about. It's taken a long time for me to get to where I am in my sort of space, mentally, emotionally, even physically. I started off about 5 years ago, and I took part in a beauty pageant, and I was the only plus size woman. So as you can imagine, you go into a beauty pageant, they're going to be super slim, tall, beautiful women there, and here's me, a size 18 to 20 woman who rocks in. And obviously I was really, really intimidated. I did not think in any way, shape or form that I would stand a chance. And I had like a light bulb moment. I thought, what is the one thing that makes me stand out from the rest of these women here? And that was my weight. So instead of looking at that in a negative way, why don't I use that as my strength? And that's exactly what I did. And I went on to basically become the second runner-up and represent the United Kingdom against 9 European countries. That was a massive achievement for me, because then that showed that actually, a woman like me can do it. And then that kind of led on for me to recognize that I am the only Asian plus size woman who entered the field of modelling in the United Kingdom. And it was so sad that we were only seeing that in 2014. So gradually, realising and recognising that there is a need for someone like me to come forward and become a role model for younger people, because I never had that at all, is a massive push to sort of me accepting who I am. So yeah, it is really difficult, because we go to sleep with ourselves at night time, we wake up every morning with ourselves, but yet, we know ourselves in the best way compared to anybody else, but yet we want validation from somebody else. And I think that is the main thing that I always stuck in my head. Why do I care what somebody else absolutely thinks of me? What matters is what I think of myself, right? And I think that's what's really pushed me to me finally accepting myself, and that's what I like to push on social media, especially on my platform.